Today we're going over my list of the top 10 guns from the Old West. This list is the guns that I think are most epitomous from the Old West period. I have tried to weigh both real life and things from Hollywood Western films together to come up with this list. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into this list. Number 10 is the Spencer Repeating Carbine. This is the other lever gun from the Old West. Why is it the other lever gun? Well, it's a little bit clunky. You got this weird thing where you have to like cock it and then work the lever and then cock it back all the way. The lever itself isn't as smooth as a lot of the others and kind of has the weird little hiccup in it as you're going on it there. You just can't run it as fast as some of the others. Now, is it a big improvement over a lot of the muzzle loaders that you had at the time? Oh yeah, it beats any muzzle loader. It just doesn't have quite the punch, and so it didn't catch on near as much as a lot of the other guns. Number 9 is the Trapdoor Springfield. Now, the Trapdoor Springfield was the standard issue military rifle from the Old West period. So anytime that the cavalry shows up to fight the Indians in a Western, they should be carrying Trapdoor Springfields. They might be carrying some other stuff. These were upgraded muzzle loaders that they had where they were able to put the loading door into it so that you could quickly load cartridges into them, and it made quite an upgrade for not a whole lot of financial investment for the military. And of course, a lot of these started finding their way to guys that weren't in the military, and they were seen around quite a bit. Number 8 is the Smith & Wesson Model No. 3 revolver, also known as the Schofield. Now, the Schofield revolver was kind of interesting in that it was a top break where it opened up from the top. That made it very quick to reload and very quick to eject cases out of it. It was the preferred weapon by a lot of people. So why is this so far down on the list? Well, you had a couple of problems with it there. Being a top break and not being a solid frame, it wasn't quite as durable as some of the others, and it could only shoot the 45 Schofield cartridge and couldn't accept 45 long Colt, which ended up being quite a bit of a problem for a lot of people out on the frontier. I'm part of the reason that the U.S. Army ended up dropping it. Number 7 is the Hawken rifle. Now, this was a very, very popular muzzle loader. This is pretty much known as the Plains rifle. This is largely based off of the Kentucky rifle, which became really, really popular. Just a lot shorter and also a lot larger caliber. If you were needing a lot of distance and a big bullet with a lot of power, Hawken rifle was a very good choice there. And if all you were wanting was a single shot at a time, the muzzle loading Hawken rifle was a really good choice. Number 6 is the Remington rolling block. The beauty of the Remington rolling block is that very simple action paired with the strong durability of the rifle. It could hold up really well. It could hold a really, really powerful cartridge. It was dead simple to use. It wasn't confusing. You couldn't really get into trouble with loading this thing wrong or jamming it up. It was just a very simple rifle, very powerful and very accurate. That's why it was picked up by a lot of militaries all over the world, and of course found its way all over the Old West. Number 5 is the Remington Model 1858. Now, this was a hard one for me to pick something on the list. I was trying to find a percussion cap revolver to put on here, and there were actually quite a few of them from many, many different places that were out there. But really the most popular one seemed to be that Remington 1858. And while it is called the 1858 because that's the patent number that was on it, it was really 1861 when this came along. This started getting picked up after there was a fire at the Colt plant. And Colt wasn't able to provide the regular revolvers for the Army, and they had to go to Remington to get some. And really you had what a lot of people thought was a much better revolver with the solid frame up top. The 1860 Army from Colt didn't have that top part of the frame on there and just wasn't quite as durable. And while the 1858 was more expensive than the 1860. It seemed to be much more popular, and anybody that could fork out a little bit more money to pick up one of those was always happy to get that. Number 4 on the list is the Sharps rifle. The Sharps was not a particular model, but a whole line or series of rifles. These were rifles whose design was able to be updated to metallic cartridges, and so they stayed around very long. They had a number of different calibers that they were in, but were all accurate rifles. So these would be like very good hunting rifles, or could be used in what we consider sniping nowadays. They had a little bit of an unusual action in them, but that's added a lot to their charm and part of the reason that you see them on so many Western films. Number 3 is the Coach gun. Now, there's not really any one particular manufacturer that really took off with making Coach guns. It seemed to be just a lot of different guys making these. What is a Coach gun? Well, that's just a simple side-by-side, two-hammered shotgun, and just a simple break action on it, usually 2 triggers on them. This is the shotgun from the Old West. It's the Coach gun because this is what the guy on the stagecoach would have with him. You'd have the guy driving the coach, and you'd have the guy that would be riding shotgun because he had the shotgun. And you just can't get any more classic than a double barrel side-by-side shotgun. Number 2 on the list is the Winchester lever action. Now, if I was going to pick one particular model to represent all of these, I would pick the model 1873 because I think that was the first one to come along that really got past the faults of the previous 1866 and 1860 Henry, and came along early enough into the Western area to be out there and be used. The lever gun just brought in just the amount of firepower that you could get through there. You could just very quickly send off rounds through that quicker than really anything else on this list. They didn't have the power and the distance of some of the other rifles on here like the Sharps, but they definitely made up with it by just sheer volume. And while the 1873 would be the one that would be most associated with the Western era, most Western films used Model 92s or Model 94s in them, and you really didn't see Hollywood using a lot of 73s. They're almost always a 92 or a 94. These films are set. I mean, most of these are in 1870s or 1880s, and so that 92 and 94 are just a long way too late. But the amount of firepower that those Winchesters gave was just a complete and absolute game changer, and you can see even with the lack of firepower and distance why those took off so well. And finally, our number 1 gun of the Old West, and yes, you know what it is. This would be the model 1873 Colt Single Action Army, also known as the Colt Peacemaker. They say that God made man and that Sam Colt made them equal. Well, by the time this came along, Sam Colt wasn't really around anymore, but still has his name on it. This is the gun that you are going to see almost always, without fail, in a Western. If your cowboy has a gun on his hip, it's a single action army. And you can see why these took off. You had a very, very rugged, solid frame. You had a very good, powerful cartridge for a handgun at the time. It's very difficult to tear these things up. The solid frame on it is ridiculously durable. And while in history they were very popular, but not just completely overwhelming the market, in Hollywood, these things just took off. It's a little clunky to load and unload, but they're just much more solid than other things that were out there. This was also the standard issue military pistol at the time, which brought up the amount of attention it got, and I think it's definitely the most iconic gun from the Old West. So, what did you think of my list? You can go down into the comments section and let me know what you think down there. You can go down and give it a thumbs up and a like, And if you're interested, you can subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification so that you can catch all the videos that I post and not miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.